So, just picked up a new part, and we're gonna go ahead and install it. So this is a pitch stop mount, and what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to help the engine stop rotating back towards the driver's seat, or towards the cab of the car. So the OEM one has a tendency of, when it gets old, it gets wore out, and it actually, the bushings inside of it go bad, and it makes it to where it's super squishy, and the engine has a whole bunch of roll going from the front of the engine to the back when you accelerate really hard, or when you drop a gear and push really hard on the engine. So this will help alleviate a lot of that. I've had a little bit of that starting to notice it, where you go to slam on the gas and you can actually feel the engine hit, and actually has a hard time keeping up with itself. Helps alleviate a lot of that, and puts a lot less stress on the whole drivetrain, because the whole drivetrain sits plain, and when you go to hammer on it, all of a sudden it tilts back really far, and that puts a lot of stress on U-joints and stuff down the line. So we're gonna hopefully help fix that, and it's cheap, it's easy. I'll show you how it's done. So without further ado, let's get this hood popped and get after it. So now that we've got our hood popped up, and we can see in our engine bay that there's kind of a lot of stuff in their way. The pitch stop mount actually sits right behind the intercooler, connects to the engine and the transmission. You're not really going to be able to see it, but it's right underneath there, right in the middle. So to get to it, we got to go ahead and take our intercooler off. Now it might be doable. Maybe not. I don't have small enough hands. Might be doable without taking it off, but we're going to be able to see what we're doing, and we're going to take it off. So we're going to get that out of there. So in order to get this intercooler off, the first thing we got to do is we got to undo this 12 millimeter and then this 12 millimeter, and that will get this unattached from the engine. But we also have to undo the throttle body coupler, and way down in there is our turbo, and it's connected to our turbo as well. So we've got to get those off, those two bolts, and then these two. I guess you have two ways. You could either take this bracket system off and to get these metal tubes off, but what I find is easier is to leave this on and just push these hoses right off and leave them right where they're at, so you know which ones you got to connect to. And you'll need these two off too, so I'll need a screwdriver. Yours should have just push-on fitting. But we'll go ahead, we'll need a screwdriver, flathead screwdriver for this one, and for our turbo, which is all the way down there, and then two 12s, and that should get us really, really close. Nice little bench. Those are rubber grommets, so they'll stay in there. We'll go to the other side. So now those two are out, we'll go get a flathead screwdriver. Now when you're taking your throttle body coupler off, you only have to undo one side, but getting it back on here, you're gonna wanna get both of them undone, because it just makes the job a little bit easier. It's really tough to line up this throttle body as well as get this turbo figured out, this turbo housing, this Y pipe that comes off here. Get that one figured out. So, got both of these loose now. We'll go ahead and try to attack this one down here, which is really, really far down in there. Hopefully we can get it. You guys probably can't see that at all. You can see the red down in there. Let's see if I can pull this back some more. Now you can see it's got a hose clamp on it. So we got to get that hose clamp off that's right there. Kind of a bear to get off. There it is. We've got these two hoses off of this side. This hose off of this side. That's all undone from this metal tubing right here. We've got our throttle body. Both these are loose. And we've got our turbo Y pipe is loose. Both bolts off. So now this whole thing... Oh, look at that, I forgot. We need our bypass taken off. So we need another two 12s to take those off. And there's a gasket behind it, so be very careful. So we've got those two, and we'll try to keep these two bolts separate from that one, which was the turbo, and pull this off. There's your gasket. Now that we got everything unhooked, you gotta go ahead and pull the intercooler back and kind of twist it towards the driver's side of the vehicle to get both of those, the throttle body and the turbo, off of the hoses that are connected to it. So we'll go ahead and we'll get that lifted up and pull this out. Just like that. So there's the Y pipe that's connected to your turbo, and it's down at the bottom, and then the throttle body. Always check your throttle body and see if there's oil in it. If there's oil in it, you've got oil bypassing somewhere. So we've got a little bit of oil residue going in, so I probably should be taking care of my catch cans, and it looks like both of them are full, so we'll go fix that. Now we got the intercooler all taken off, and you can see here's the stock pitch stop mount. It's not bad. It's a little loose on the backside, but here's your throttle body, the front of the car, and here's your pitch stop mount, the old one, and it's got two 14 millimeters that need to come out of it to get it off. There it is, both bolts out, the pitch stop, and then we should be able to just pull it right out of where it's hanging out in. And there's the old stock pitch stop mount. Here we go, we've got our OEM, and here's the new one. This is a Cobb one. The Perrin one's really popular, but I found a really good deal on this one. So it replaces these rubbers fail right here. And you can see how squishy it is. And this rubber isn't squishy at all, which is good because this is supposed to limit the amount of movement that it has. And right now it has too much movement going forward and backwards. So hopefully we can stiffen this up and make sure that that engine stops pitching backwards. So now that this one's out, we'll go ahead and put the new one in. Well, there we go. New pitch stop installed. Got the bolts retightened back on it. I did take off this 10 mil to make it a little easier, but luckily it has a hole in here. It made it real easy to lift that thing up and get it in a place where I needed it. Now, we need to install our intercooler again. Biggest challenge with getting your intercooler back in is getting your little turbo pipe, making sure that the bottom actually goes down and around the turbo. It's very, very cumbersome to try to get that in as well as try to get this in, because the turbo needs the coupler to go this way while the throttle body needs the coupler to go this way. So it's really hard to kind of get it in there, but what I find the easiest way is give it, like, cock it just a little bit this way. Make sure that we get that started. Push down on it really, really hard. Right here, you can push down and make sure that you get enough play and make sure that goes on, because this one's easier to fix than that one. That one's really hard to get to. You've got all this stuff in the way. So you can push down on it, kind of wiggle it, move the hose around. You have a lot more room when this isn't completely in, but wiggle that hose around. Sometimes it helps to get a screwdriver and kind of run it around the inside. But definitely make sure that that is on perfect. That one has to be on perfect. And if you need to, this bracket right here is in the way that holds the intercooler on. It's really in the way, and you can undo it. It's just 2 12s right here. Just pop it right off. That's all it's holding onto it. And then you'll have a lot more room for pushing it this way if you need it. It can be done with this on. I leave mine on, but it is kind of in the way. Definitely easy to take it off and put back on, but I've got everything back on, and now I've got to start tightening stuff up. So I'm going to start on my turbo red piping back there and make sure that that's tight, because that's going to be the hardest thing for me to get to. And one thing that helps out a whole bunch is have a really long screwdriver, so you can get down in there, make sure that you get it right. Make sure you get all of these tight. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten those up right now and then get to the other stuff. So another useful tip is when you're doing the turbo hose clamp is to grab a second screwdriver. Use that second screwdriver to help pry the bottom of that clamp over, because when you start to tighten it, your clamp sits in there straight. Once you start to try to tighten it, if you have it as loose as you can get it, I mean, you want it really, really loose so it's easy to get that coupler on. But once it's loose, you go to tighten it and it'll try to turn when it's tightened. So use that second screwdriver on the bottom to keep it straight. And that way you can get a good, nice seal on it, because a lot of times, and I've seen it a whole bunch of times, if that turbo piping fails right there, because that clamp is half on and half off, and that's due to trying to start tightening it. You tighten it, and then the clamp just goes from straight up and down where it's supposed to be, and it's kinked sideways, where that bottom is off of the hose completely and halfway onto the turbo housing. So that plastic or that rubber that's back there is very, very brittle, and you can tell that when it's been off. Mine's been off before. Somebody before me had it off to where the side of that silicone now is wore away, and it's made it a weak spot. So definitely use 2 screwdrivers. Make sure, take your time, make sure that thing is perfectly straight up and down. And make sure it's really tight, because that's a good spot for boost leaks. So definitely make sure it's tight. If you really want to make sure that you're getting those tight enough, because I don't like flathead screwdrivers. I think that the hose clamp flathead is one of the worst things ever to try to deal with. So grab yourself a 5/16 if you have it, or if you don't, an 8mm on a socket. On an extension, a wobbler makes life a million times easier, because you can just buzz it down with the gun. So you can double check yourself that way, or if you don't want to use a gun, you definitely can use a ratchet if you want. Totally fine. Makes it a lot easier, because the flathead tends to strip out, and I always seem to get frustrated with it always falling off, the stupid thing. So just go ahead, get yourself 5/16 or an 8mm, really close enough. So next we're gonna go ahead and install the blow-off valve, and then put the 2 bolts in for the intercooler, and that's it. Done. Install over. If your gasket's fallen out, definitely remember to replace it. Check for any wear marks or anything, but it will just go down inside here. And then we'll get our 2 bolts to hold it in. Now we'll just tighten those down. Double check everything. So remember, we've got these hoses. One's right here that needs to go on. And then you follow this tube across, and we've got 2 more to put in as well. Now that we're done, we're just going to double check everything. Remember, we've got the 2 bolts holding our intercooler on, our throttle body coupler, our turbo coupler, these 3 hoses, and our blow-off valve, blow-pass valve. Everything looks good, everything's tidy. I'd say that we're done. Well, cool. Glad that was easy. I'm glad to be done with it now, and I'm glad that we've actually taken the time to upgrade to this new pitch stop mount. Hopefully it will make a difference in the car. I know it's not going to be huge power gains or anything drastic, but hopefully it will help with that engine surge that I've been having with. It's obviously gotten dark on me. I'm gonna head to bed. Hopefully you guys learned something. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like. If you tried to do it without taking the intercooler out, leave a comment. Let me know how well that worked out for you. Without further ado, I'm gonna get out of here. You enjoy the rest of your night. Don't forget to subscribe. Coming back with more content. Working on everything. Let me know what you guys want me to work on. I'll work on it. I'm gonna get out of here. Everyone enjoy your night. Peace.